We all want to feel like there is something else. That there is a reason that we're all here, that there is some sort of order to the chaos.
We're looking to know that it's not random.
Tonight, this will be our quest.
In the city that never sleeps, I'm here to meet the man whose work never stops selling. In Dan Brown's books, symbols hold secrets, codes and clues of great meaning.
We're all on some level drawn to this idea that there's something behind the curtain.
And this concept that there are people who know the truth and who leave hints everywhere.
It's the notion that to see our future, we must first return to our past.
It's like we've gone back 700 years.
Spectacular. I can't believe we're in New York.
On the corner of 12th and Broadway in New York is Strand Bookstore, where right now one book is outselling all others. From the author of the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons comes Inferno. Once again, Dan Brown has written the hottest book in the world.
Clearly, there's something about the mystery, the secrets, and the intrigue of Dan Brown's novels. He's the world's fastest-selling novelist. 200 million copies of his books have sold worldwide. So what's his secret? You've got a formula that obviously works brilliantly.
We love to think that there's something happening behind the scenes, that there's an explanation for everything. We are comforted by the thought that someone is driving the bus, that someone is pulling the strings, that it's not all random.
In the 14th century, Dante wrote of the descent into hell, the journey of the soul towards God, and the 9 layers of fiery suffering for those who've sinned. An allegory about death that's lived on ever since.
Seeing these sinners eviscerated, decapitated, maimed, punished in every kind of lurid detail you could possibly imagine.
What's the worst of it?
Well,
What's
the
most-
sodomites are forced to run on a dusty plain, on a desert plain, while fire rains down upon them. The suicides have become twigs, transformed into twigs that are broken, and they bleed as they sputter out.
For Sarah Diaz, one of the world's experts on Dante, the joy of his journey is discovering how ingenious the punishments are. For example, the punishment for adulterous lovers.
They're simply made to suffer being together for eternity. That which they desired most in life is now their fate forevermore in death. And you get the feeling that they wish they could maybe break up in the afterlife.
There's a statue to Dante right slap bang in New York.
Wonderful. I was continually shocked by the influence Dante has had. I mean, there's probably a Dante statue in every city in America. He would be proud.
He would be proud.
Dante is joined by Virgil, his guide, and they descend through the 9 rings of hell, and they see all of Dante's enemies in life, his political enemies, the people who exiled him, and these people are all punished in different ways depending on what sins they committed in life.
This is really cool, because what I like about your books is you put some of your friends and characters into your books as well, including some of your old school teachers. And they often suffer the most awful, malignant, nasty deaths. Do you have a thing with your school teachers?
It's done out of love. I mean, it's a joke. They get it. It's fine. My Italian teacher in 12th grade, who actually introduced me to Dante's Inferno, became Cardinal Baja in the novel Angels and Demons, and unfortunately he drowned in the Fountain of the Four Rivers at the hand of an assassin.
Once again, the studious Professor Robert Langdon is at the centre of the apocalyptic struggle between good and evil.
Good God.
For a bookish fellow, Langdon's never out of strife.
I'm into something here that I cannot understand.
Dan Brown is unashamedly proud of his unlikely but very successful formula, the all-action academic.
I've done that always in my books as a way to keep the plot moving.
So one of the things that I was fascinated with was where you got your obsession with codes and symbols from, and it was your dad, wasn't it?
Yeah, my dad's he's a mathematician, a math book writer. textbook author, and I grew up with codes and symbols in the house. So we had, on Christmas morning, we would have treasure hunts that involved codes and symbols. So I grew up thinking codes were fun.
As it was, by some mystical coincidence, while we were filming, we ran into Dan's mum and dad, Connie and Richard.
The mathematician, the scientist, the religious one. Who won?
Mum was a church organist, his father a maths professor. Their son grew up torn between religion and science.
But tell me about that dynamic between mum and dad. Who won?
Well, it was funny because for a while I didn't know there was a problem. I just thought, well, we can be religious and scientific. And then as you start to study and you learn about cosmology as opposed to Adam and Eve, you realize you can't have it both ways. And in school I gravitated towards science. And the further I went in science, through university, I realized, wow, if you go too far in science and math, the ground starts to get a little mushy and numbers become imaginary numbers and physics becomes metaphysics, and it really is a big circle. You find out that science and religion are two different languages trying to tell the same story. They're really doing the same thing.
So are you religious?
I always say I'm a work in progress. I'm simultaneously awed and confused.
Codes, symbols and hidden messages are everywhere in Dan Brown's books. It would seem too incredible if not for the fact that much of what he draws on is real, like the imposing Capitol building in Washington, heart of American power. There, above the statues and the Declaration of Independence, a Masonic message left for future generations about man's heavenly potential.
Here it is, the very center of American politics, dead center, on the rotunda of the Capitol building. And there is a painting of George Washington ascending as a god. This apotheosis literally means God-making.
And why is it there?
That's a great question. Our founding fathers were Freemasons. They believed in ancient mysticism, and part of ancient mysticism is that man can become God.
You do learn some interesting things from Dan Brown books, such as the intriguing image you'll find on the wall of their national cathedral. I'll give you a hint.
My bad acting may be a bad clue, but look closely. Darth Vader. Northeast of Washington, New York.
Great thing about New York is that you have the old and the new mixed together, which is something I love.
Amid the bustle, we find a place of solitude and more secrets.
Can you keep secrets?
Just one of the problems of what I do, that you can never just sort of look at anything in a normal light. You've always got to look for the hidden meaning.
Lucifer, at the gates of hell.
I love it. It's a single-mouthed Lucifer. Fantastic.
Oftentimes, I'm trying to keep it secret, what I'm writing about. So I'll need to go in baseball cap and glasses and pretend I'm not Dan Brown.
I know you're not going to tell me, but I've got to ask anyway, because you have a determined readership down in Australia. Where is Robert Langdon going next?
Well, I consider it the 8th deadly sin that I have not been to Australia. Maybe I'll come down, you can give me a tour.
You'd be very welcome. Dan Brown, thank you so much for speaking to Sunday Night.
The pleasure's mine.